Yo, what's up? So today I've compiled 10 different life hacks for Create Aeronautics that should make your life a lot easier. So a lot of these are things I've shown off in other videos, but I wanted to compile them all into one nice place, and I also added in a few more. So let's get started. So for the first life hack, I want to talk about weightless blocks. So this whole contraption right here is just the weight of this single wool block. So if you look at the diagram here, total mass 0.25 kpg, and just a single wool block is the same, 0.25. So this is made of a whole bunch of different kinds of weightless blocks. So we've got things like torches, vines, buttons, powder snow, cobwebs, signs, banners, string, and item frames. And there are also a whole bunch more of them, like pressure plates and tripwire hooks. So these weightless blocks are really useful for connecting different parts of your airship or vehicle together in a way that doesn't add any extra weight. So this can be super useful for trying to keep your ship balanced. Now there's actually one more supposedly weightless block, scaffolding. However, it just isn't. It weighs 1 kpg, which is the same as any normal block. So I don't know why it says it's weightless, it just isn't. So yeah, try and use some weightless blocks in your next build. All right, the next life hack has to do with these handles. So they can be used to do a lot of things other than just, getting on top of your airship. So first off, you can make a road out of them. So you can just make a long line and then you just spam right click to run across it. If you do that while sprinting, you go even faster. And this is definitely a lot faster than just sprint jumping. Now there are plenty of other ways to travel, but this is just one of them, and maybe it'll fit in your base. Now you can also use them for vertical movement. So you can make a really nice elevator shaft like this. Just spam right click again to get up and down. And then you can place blocks on the side like this to show where your floors are so you can get off more easily. And something I really like about this design is that it works both up and down. So you can go down and use the handles to stop your fall damage. And then finally, you can use them as monkey bars so you can, hold onto the ceiling, get across gaps like this. So yeah, overall, there's just a lot of different things you can do with these to move around more efficiently, and I think you should try them out. All right, next let's look at chutes. So you might have been in a situation like this before where you need to send an item horizontally like this, but there's only one block in between, so you can't do a belt, and it's kind of awkward, right? Well, something you can do is use a swivel bearing in the back here, and if I put my chute 90 degrees like this, it'll take items from here to there. So this is a really nice and compact way to be able to move items in directions that you normally wouldn't be able to. Now you can also do the same thing with these rivets if you have the Create Coaster Simulated mod. So you can place a rivet on the side of one of your depots like this, and then just place a chute against that. And that way you can do the exact same thing, just a little bit more compact. And it doesn't only work sideways, you can do it, for example, upside down like this. So I can place an item down here and go through the chutes and go up to here. So it's the easiest way to move items upward. Now, unfortunately, you can't do the same thing with hoppers. If I was to place an item on this depot, it wouldn't get picked up by the hopper. And then if I put an item into the hopper, it doesn't go onto this depot. However, if you rotate the whole thing, it does work. So I can do it like that. And then it's not just item manipulation devices, you can rotate anything. So one really useful thing could be beacons. So you can put your beacons upside down or even just put it right side up. And the really useful thing about this is that it just goes through blocks, so you don't have to dig out a whole thing and put your beacon at the bottom of the world. So you can point your beacon in any direction you want. So before we continue, I wanted to let you know that I recently opened up a new Discord server that you can join from the link in the description. And aside from just general chatting about Minecraft and aeronautics, I'm working on setting up a small public Minecraft server that should launch very soon. So if you're interested in joining, head over there and stay tuned. All right, for the next life hack, I want to show you a thing that you can do with these redstone inductors. So these are normally used to slow down your redstone signal so that it increases and decreases over time instead of all at once. But if you pull the slider all the way to the left, it turns into copy. And then if you right click it, it turns from copy to invert. And these are really useful for compact redstone devices. So the copy function, as the name suggests, just takes the signal strength, so right here it's on 5, and just outputs the same thing, which you could just do that with a piece of redstone. But sometimes you have to extend it more than one block, and if you just use redstone dust, the signal strength decreases. And if you try to extend it farther with using repeaters, it totally ruins it. So that's where these are useful, is that you can extend the signal any length you want, but it stays the same power. Now with the invert function, it takes your signal and subtracts it from 15. So this 5 would become 10, the 4, 11, 3 becomes 12, and so on. And so that's the equivalent of a circuit like this, where you have a comparator in subtract mode, where it's subtracting everything from 15. So here it's on 5 and we get 10, 4 and we get 11, and so on. But another way to use this is just when you realize that at 0 you get 15, and at 15 you get 0. So it's just like a redstone torch inverter like this. So it's just a really compact way to do that. And this functionality I actually used on this golf cart here. So I wanted to be able to turn on and off the engine from the controller. But the problem is that the engine turns off when the signal is on. So I needed to invert it. So I just used a little inverter right here. And now when I press space, it turns on the engine. And when I let go, it turns off. So there's a practical example of how this can be really useful. All right, now sticking with the practical redstone idea, here's how to make tank tracks work properly. So you've probably made a vehicle like this where you have tracks on either side and you need to be able to go forward, backward, and turn left and right. And if you just have, normal redstone links on your directional gear shifts like this, and you try to link each one up to a control, it doesn't work, right? And so here are two different ways to set up your controls to get good tank controls where your forward, backward, left, and right actually go the right directions. So first, here's one I've showed off in some other vehicles before, where instead of putting your redstone links directly on your directional gear shift, you put a block first and then put 2 redstone links on the block. Then you hook up your controls. So you have my forward and backward with the bones and my left and right with gunpowder. So we have our forward and backward, and then our left and right. And when I control it, it works perfectly. Now, as always with rotation directions, sometimes you just have to guess and check. So you might, switch around your directional gear shifts until it's right, or switch around your controls. But this is the setup that works. But sometimes you don't have space to put all these blocks here. So that's a great time to use this system. So here we have some intermediate frequencies. I'm using diamonds and iron here. But our controls are still on our bones and gunpowder. And we just set up a little redstone circuit like this. So we can see we have our controls. Here's our forward, backward, left, and right. And then those trigger these other diamonds and iron links. So you can see when I press forward, it activates those ones. Backward activates those ones. Left and right. And this circuit produces the same results. And the key with this is to make sure that you have each redstone link attached diagonally in the circuit. So I have my diamonds in this corner, and iron in this one, and this one. And then you'll probably want to have this circuit somewhere on your vehicle, but you can kind of just put it anywhere. You can be like on the bottom or on the top, or you can even split it up into multiple different parts, if you only have a little bit of space in each spot. So yeah, I've used both of these different systems at one point or another on different types of vehicles. It just depends on what kind of vehicle and how much space you have. All right, next is one that you might already know about, but if you don't already know about this, this will change your life. This is minecart contraptions. So you're gonna need these 4 things to do it. And this lets you take your vehicles and turn them into items. So it makes things much more portable and easy to store. So you just have to disassemble your physics contraption. And then under it, so like right here, just place your rail cart assembler, minecart on it. Then you wanna place a lever next to it. Make sure to switch the cart assembler to lock rotation. And then when you flip the lever, it turns your whole vehicle into a minecart contraption, which you can pick up with a wrench. And it's gone. And here I have it as an item. So you can go somewhere else, place down a rail in your minecart contraption, and here it is. And then you can turn it back into blocks by just placing a cart assembler on the track. Then you can break this and then just reassemble it. So that's the easiest way to move your vehicles around from place to place. Only thing you have to remember is the whole thing has to be glued with super glue rather than honey glue for it to work. And then also, for whatever reason, swivel bearings and docking connectors won't attach to a minecart contraption. So if you try and assemble it with a swivel bearing or a docking connector on it, it'll just get left behind. All right, now for some stuff that involves other mods besides just Create Aeronautics. So here's with Create Big Cannons. So a common thing that you'll want to have on some fighter aircraft or other vehicles is the ability to control an autocannon like this, while also using a typewriter or other controller. And you can actually do that if you just put the typewriter very close to the autocannon, and you click on the typewriter first, and then the autocannon. And then I can use the controls of the typewriter, you can see, while also using the autocannon. So you can see I can shoot and use my controls at the same time. And I've actually used that on a whole bunch of my vehicles, like the Swordfish here. You can see the typewriter is right next to the autocannon. And you just have to make sure it's close enough, because sometimes if you're on this and you're moving around, your body can move far enough away from the typewriter that you disconnect from it. So just make sure it's, either right here or very close by so that you don't disconnect. All right, so then the next mod is the Create Propulsion Simulated mod, which I've talked about a lot before. but I'm just going to recap. So it adds the solid burner, liquid burner, and Stirling engine. And these basically act as blaze burners, but you don't need to actually go to the nether to get them. You don't need a blaze, they're just made with like copper and iron and normal stuff. And then the Stirling engine just uses the heat from the burners to give you rotational power. And so I used these to make my famous super compact lava farm here, which uses these liquid burners and then a lava generator here, which pumps the lava into those liquid burners to generate more lava. And this generates a ridiculous amount of lava. It's enough to power 3 max level steam boilers. So that alone is an insanely useful thing that you can use these for. But another useful thing I found is with the diesel generators mod. So if you have your oil refinery here, what I like to do is pump the gasoline back into the bottom, into the burner, and this actually superheats if you give it a redstone signal here. And so it produces 50% more diesel and gasoline than normal. And the diesel generators mod also adds its own version of this. It's just called a burner. And it can do the same thing, but it's just a little bit more expensive to craft and a little bit less convenient to use. So I'd recommend using these propulsion simulated ones. So yeah, if you're using this mod, make sure to abuse the hell out of these things. They're so useful. All right, and for the final life hack, here's a super useful one. So if you ever find spawners out in the wild, normally you just have to build a farm around the spawner, but with Create Aeronautics, you can actually move this somewhere else. So if you grab a physics assembler, you can place it on top and assemble the spawner. Then you can take off the assembler and then put a handle on it, and now you can move it around. And I find the best way to actually move it around to get out from underground up to your base is with water. So here I built a water column all the way up to the surface. It doesn't have to be source blocked, it can be flowing water. Then all you have to do is put the spawner in the water and the handle actually floats. So it'll just carry the spawner all the way back up to the surface for you. Here it comes. There we go. So I can just pick it out. You can see my base is right over there. So then I can just yeet it. And so what I like to do is go around to a mine shaft and collect like 5 cave spider spawners and then put them all together into one really nice mob farm. Just be careful though, because I'm in peaceful mode right now, but in any normal difficulty, it'll keep spawning stuff all around it, even if there's light. It's a weird thing with sub-levels where the lighting is inconsistent. And so especially when it's underground, it'll just keep spawning stuff all around, even like inside walls. But yeah, once you get it back on the surface, you can just reassemble it into a normal block and then you have a nice farm. So yeah, those are all my life hacks. I hope they can be useful to you. And if you know any other really useful life hacks, please leave them in the comments. I'd love to see. And I'm sure lots of other people would like to see those as well. And you can also share stuff in my new Discord server. So don't forget to go join that using the link in the description. I'm hoping to host a new Minecraft server very soon. So if you're interested in that, go check it out. But anyways, if you like this, please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching. See ya!